In this video, I'm going to show you how to use this _cn. So this basically plug and play shadcn UI registry template powered by TanStack star. It's really easy to use. As you can see down here, I'm going to show you step by step basically. Then the final project, it should be live. As you can see here, it's live on the acme-ui. I'm going to put link on the description. Then as you can see here, basically, of course, you can always change the UI here to whatever you want using AI. Then as you can see, the component, I already adding this copy button component, right? This is for this demo tutorial. As you can see, it works, right? I can just copy the button. I can see the code review here, the CLI, the manual installation as well. It's pretty nice. The UI, it's simple and clean. You can also add like a blocks, utilities, whatever, right? Everything just works. Then of course you can use this one as well. By default it's available. Then the search functionality by default also available. It's automatically if I search the copy, and of course as you can see it's available on the component, right? This is the component that I create using the AI agent. Basically, I will show you step by step from the clone the repo, basically deploy the project to the Vercel, then update the registry config, then etc. Then finally, we create the copy button component and etc. Right? Hopefully this video helpful. Then let's get started. All right, so the first step, what we need to do, let's just clone this repository. So anyway, we can running with npx degit in here, or we can use git clone. I'm going to try to use this one. So I'm going to copy that, paste that to my terminal. Then I'm going to give a name my registry for the folder name like this. Then let's try. As you can see, it's also asking me to install the degit package. I'm going to say yes, it's fine. All right, this is done. So let's cd to that folder, then open it with my VS Code. As you can see, this application is basically using Vite, right? So now we can running the vp install to install all the dependency on this project. Then after that, we can run vp dev. I have a video about the Vite Plus on my previous video. You can just check that out. If you not yet install Vite Plus, you can just run this command in here, or you can just go to Vite Plus. Then you can just follow right here how to install it. As you can see, if you're using a Mac OS Linux, just run this one. If you're using Windows, just run this one. Great. So the next thing is we can use the agent skill. That's what we want basically. I'm going to copy this command here. Just go back here. Hopefully this is done. It's still install all the dependency. Just wait for that. All right, this is done. So now we can just running this npx skill at jackjarvis_cn and then skill as well. So I'm going to say yes for the skill. Because I'm using OpenCode, that basically universal agent skill in here, I don't have to install anything. So let's just hit enter. Then I'm going to install that on this project. Then yes. Here we go. As you can see, now we have these agent skill and shadcn registry. Cool. Now let's try the vp dev to run the development server. So let's open the localhost 3000 on the browser. Then as you can see, here we go. It's look like this. We also have the TanStack star on the bottom right here. That means this application also using TanStack. So let's take a look. If I click browse and everything just works, guys. Like the component in here, right? The code, everything pretty nice. The blocks, utilities, everything just works. I like to first push this code to my GitHub repository. So I'm going to run this command, initialize a Git repo, commit everything, create a GitHub repo called acme-ui under my account, and push main to it. Then the result is no GitHub CLI found and no GitHub token set. So there's a couple options in here to authenticate GitHub. So I'm going to use GitHub CLI basically, the point 2. As you can see, now the AI is installed GitHub with brew on my Mac system. Then trying to log in with web right here. So let's take a look. Basically, I have to click this URL in here. Let's just try to sign in or just continue. All right, this is done. Now all the code is basically pushed to this URL. So I can click then open it. As you can see, pretty nice. Then now I can just go to my Vercel, just try to deploy that. You can deploy your project from vercel.com, or basically you can use Vercel CLI if you want. But I like to just using this vercel.com, just import it, then deploy. All right, this is done. Then as you can see, this is the live version, acme UI iota.vercel.app. Then yeah, our application is live right now. So what we need to do next is we need to update the configuration of the project. So we can just running this one in here, this prompt basically, update registry config.ts. So the registry name is Acme UI, namespace is @Acme, homepage is this URL here. That's my live version of the application. And repository URL is this run right here, right? You can just copy that. Of course, you can put your own URL there, then just running. And the next, I'm going to run another prompt, basically to rewrite the docs index.amd, remove any content describing this as the CN template, replace it with introduction to Acme UI, right, then etc. So I'm going to copy it and running. Then also I'm going to rewrite again the docs/installation.mdx, remove template specific instructions and replace with how to install any Acme UI items using the shadcn CLI, etc. So let's go back here. Then I'm going to running that again. Alright, this is done. So let's take a look at the result here. I'm going to go to docs. Then as you can see, now the instructions is all about my Acme UI. Acme UI is collection of copy and paste and etc. Right? Cool. Then you can see the component here. For example, the example card in here. Basically, we can copy that using these commands. So let's try to running this one. I'm going to copy that, then running, right? So let's just run. Then as you can see, it just works, right? This is the code basically. So let's try to add another component, for example. So let me try to go back here on the prompt. For this demo, I'm going to create like a copy button component. So this is the prompt. Let's try to running that. Alright, this is done. So let's take a look at the result. Then as you can see, guys, we have this copy button component right now. Then everything is just really nice to see. As you can see here, the preview, if I click that, after 2 seconds, yes, it's go back to the copy button. Pretty nice. If I go to code, this is how to implement that. Really nice. So the installation, we can see this CLI. Then also we can do that as a manual installation. Pretty cool. For example, here, I like to just copy this HTTP here. Let's just try to see that on the browser. It's a registry item not found because I accessed the live version of the URL. Because we on the development mode right now, of course, I have to access that on the local host. Then r then / copy button.json. Let's try to running. Then as you can see, it works, right? This is basically the component, the copy button component. So now what we have to do, just try to say commit this and push the code. Just like that. Now it should be automatically push the code as well on the Vercel. So now this will be updated automatically as well. Alright, now the code is committed and pushed to the main successfully. Let's go back to the GitHub. Then as you can see, we have this 1 minute ago. It's successful pushed to the GitHub, but we get this error. This basically error when we try to deploy automatically to the Vercel. Then I'm going to go to detail maybe. Let's take a look what we get an error in here. So this is the error. I think I'm going to copy that, then try to paste that on my open code in here. So I say push is success, but I get this error on the Vercel. Just paste the error and then hit enter. Let's take a look. Alright, it's fixed right now and already pushed. As you can see, the problem is because the Vercel is not support the code tabs, and then it already replaced that using call out. Let's take a look again. As you can see, it's still building, so we can just wait until this is done. Then hopefully there is no error again. And as you can see, it's completed. Really nice. Just try to refresh that. As you can see now, this Acme UI, right? We have that. Pretty cool. And also the component. Hopefully we see this copy button as well. It also works. All right. As you can see, this copy button component, it works. The code and etc. Right? And of course, you can add any component you want using AI agent. You can add any blocks you want. You can add any utilities you want in here and push your project to the Vercel. Then of course, you can get any domain if you want. Then your project is live. And thank you so much for watching. Then see you on another video.